Hello guys, today we're going to be doing domain and range of the following functions. We're going to focus particularly on functions that are graphed. So this is finding domain and range of functions that are graphed. A strategy that I like to use is to use vertical and horizontal lines that help us determine where the domain and range start and ends. So let's go ahead and one thing I did want to cover is we're using Google Slides to put these symbols into Google Slides. It's a little complicated, so I did put the steps on there for in case you have to do this assignment on there. Let's go ahead and get into the first example. It says, drag the red lines to help you determine the start and end of the domain for this function. And then down here, it's asking us to type the domain. So real quick, let's define domain one more time. Domain is all the possible values of x. All the possible values of x. One thing that is important about domain that I think students always need to remember is to always look at the x-axis. So that's one important thing that I think you guys need to remember. And then another thing is always start from left to right because the smallest numbers are on the left. So smallest number is on the left. And the largest number is on the right. All right, so I always like to draw these vertical lines. So for domain, I do draw vertical lines because that's how they cross the x-axis. So let's go ahead and do this example. As you can notice, here's my graph. It starts here and it goes all the way to here. So I'm going to draw these vertical lines. Bam. I'm going to draw it right there. That's where it starts on the x-axis. Again, I'm referring to the x-axis. What number is that? That's negative 11. So I'm going to put the negative 11 first. Now, let's think about all these numbers that follow. All the numbers that follow are bigger than a negative 11. So negative 11 is not greater, but less than. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to highlight this less than symbol to put it into my Google Slides. So what I did is I highlighted it and I pressed Control C on my computer. And so I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to put negative 11 is less than, Control V, paste it, less than x. Why am I putting an x there? Because I'm talking about domain, and domain is all the x values. So negative 11 is less than x, which is less than, because all these numbers are less than, where does it end? I'm going to drag my other vertical line to help me determine where it ends. It ends right here at 8. At 8. So down here, I'm going to put in 8, like that. Now, there is one little detail that I'm missing on this. Take a minute and think, what's that little detail? Well, the detail is here at negative 11, it is less than, but not equal to, because an open circle does not include the number. However, over here at positive 8, we do have a closed circle, which means we do include the 8, which means that it's not less than, it's less than or equal to. Less than or equal to. All right? Because of the closed circle, it includes the 8. So that is how you write the domain for this problem. All right, let's go ahead and try the range. The range is all the possible values of y. So we are going to be looking specifically at the y-axis. So you're looking at the numbers on the y-axis. So this one's different. We're going to start from the bottom to the top. Your lines on this one are horizontal. Notice that the lines are different. Horizontal lines. And let's see. Let's go ahead and start this one. So we want to see how low does it go? How low does it go? It doesn't go right there because this point down here is lower. So the lowest it goes is right there. And then we're asking ourselves, how high does it go? It doesn't stop right there. It stops at the very, very top of that problem, like that. All right. So now that we've determined what the lowest and the highest point is from bottom to top, we're going to write the range into the box. So we're going to have range. And again, we want to start with the smallest number. The smallest number is on the y-axis. We're looking at the y-axis. That's why I drew my horizontal line. The smallest number is -9. Now, you must ask yourselves, do I include that -9? Is there an open circle? There is not an open circle there. There is a solid line. That solid line means that you're including the -9. So that means that the symbol is going to be less than. Again, remember, we're going in order from smallest to largest, so that's why we put a less than right there. So that's supposed to say -9 is less than, let me change that all to the same font. And now, instead of putting x values in the middle, we're going to put y, because we're talking about the range of y. And it's less than, or let's see what's the highest number it goes to. It goes all the way to 9, and it's including 9 because it's a solid line. So less than or equal to 9, like this. So the range for this one is from -9 to +9, and we include them all. And we include them all. So let me get this all up to look nicer. There we go. So it is a solid line, so we include that -9. It is a solid line, so we include that +9. So it's -9 is less than y, which is less than 9, because you include all the numbers from -9 to 9. All right. So here's a note that kind of summarizes the way to write the notation, because I know sometimes we have issues. So I would write this down if I were you. The notation is always going to be in order. In other words, from the smallest number to the largest number. We're not going to have 9 and then -9. That's not how you're going to see it. If you're doing something wrong, that's probably what it is. These symbols are always going to be a specific way. It's either going to be less than, or it's going to be less than or equal to. Why? Because the smallest number is always first, and then it's the biggest number. And so you're going to have this number and one of these symbols, and you're going to have X for domain, and then the symbol, and then the number, or you're going to have Y for range. So that's how the setup works. So as you could see here, smallest number, Y for range, and then largest number. As you could see in this one was smallest number was -11, X, and then 8. And then depending on whether it was an open or a closed circle, depends on the symbols you saw. So hopefully you wrote that down. Let's determine when we have to use a less than or equal to. A less than does not include the number. So whenever the number is not included, how do we know it's not included? It would be an open circle. In a minute, we're going to get into the concept of infinity. Infinity is not included because you can't touch infinity. How would you know how to use the less than or equal to? The number is included. It is a closed circle. So that's when you would use that. So if I go to my first example, here we had a closed circle, so here it was a less than or equal to. Here we had an open circle, so here it was just a less than. And then here, we didn't have a closed or open circle. We had a solid line. The solid line means that it is included because it's theoretically closed. All right, so those are two important notes that my students always need to know. So this one's a little bit different, and you're going to see why. So let's go ahead and do domain on this one. The domain is drawing your left line and drawing your right line. So I'm going to drag these where they go, like that. And notice that for the domain on this domain, we are at this arrow. The arrow means the function keeps going. Keeps going. And it either keeps going to -infinity or +infinity. It depends on which direction you are. So let's look at this. The domain goes at this arrow. This arrow means it keeps going. So technically we start at -infinity. I'm going to write it because I don't know how to write this symbol here. -infinity is less than. We just determined that we have to use the less than symbol. So I'm going to use this one, Control Copy, because we don't include infinity. Okay, and then I got to make that smaller. All right, so the domain is from -infinity. We're talking about X is less than. I'm going to make that smaller. Less than, and let's look at where it stops. Does it stop right there at 4? No, it keeps going. It keeps going towards what number? Positive infinity. And let me fix the font on that. There we go. So the domain on this one is from negative infinity to positive infinity. But we actually don't write it like that. This would be all real numbers. That's how we would write this one. All real numbers. And that would be the domain for this function because it keeps going to the left and it keeps going to the right. Okay, let's go ahead and try one more. The range. The range is from the bottom to the top. So I actually don't need these. So I'm going to erase them. I clicked on them and I erased them because we don't need them. The range is from the bottom to the top. All right. And we're going to start with the smallest number first. Right here, it doesn't stop at -4. There's an arrow. That arrow means it goes from negative infinity all the way to, and if it's negative infinity, it's less than, not less than or equal to. So let me fix this. Negative infinity, and then we're talking about range, so that's going to be y is less than. Let me fix that again. There we go. So from negative infinity, y is less than. And then if you go to the top, it's going to keep going up, so that's positive infinity. But we don't write it like that. We are going to write it as all real numbers. All real numbers. So the range on this one is all real numbers. All right. So here's a little slide that gets you thinking. When you see the arrows at the end of the graph, what does that mean? What do the arrows represent? They mean that the function goes on forever or goes on forever to negative or positive infinity. All right. So let's go ahead and try this one. We're going to do the range. So again, you're doing from the bottom to the top. So which lines do you not need? I don't need the vertical ones. I need the horizontal ones. And we're going to drag this one down to the bottom like this. Where does it stop? It stops right there. And then I'm going to drag it to the top. Where does it stop? It stops right there. That's the highest point on the circle. So the range starts from -3, and then it's going to be less than. This less than symbol needs to get fixed. Let me fix it real quick. So it's from less than. We're talking about range, so that's going to be y, which is less than. And then what's the highest it goes to? Again, I'm looking at the y-axis because it's range. So that's 2, 3 right there. Any questions? Any questions? Okay, go ahead and try domain on this one. Kind of picture which lines you got to erase and which ones you got to keep. Pause the video. All right, so hopefully you paused the video. We are going to erase this line and this line. Because for domain, we need the vertical lines, not the horizontal ones. And if we do this one, we go from negative infinity is less than x, which is less than, and then we're going all the way to 5 on the x-axis. So that's how you would write it. All right, let's try one more. Let's try 2 more examples. Range. Ooh, this one's tricky. This one's tricky on the range. I'm going to get rid of the vertical lines because we need horizontal ones for range. And the range says how low does it go? It goes right there. And then how high does it go? Now watch how we do this one. This one's going to be trickier. If you look at this purple solid line right here, it crosses at 0. The lowest point is 0, and it's less than or equal to. So I need a less than or equal to. So I put the less than or equal to. We're talking about y. And how did I know it was equal to? Because it's a solid line, so we include it. And then if you go up, it goes to infinity. And you don't write the infinity because that's just not how you write these notations. So just kind of leave it like that. You don't write the infinity. All right. So I recommend you watch part 2 of this video to finish up the rest of the examples. So make sure you watch part 2 of the video. And hopefully, if you need to rewatch this one, just rewatch it. Bye-bye, guys.